On Friday, October 3rd, reporters explained that Taylor Swift's new album, The Life of a Showgirl, was being released, and they noted that the launch strategy had taken a different form compared with the common modern rollouts of 5 singles released in advance, pointing out that there had been no leading single offered to the public and that the actual sound of the record had not been officially revealed at all. So the sense of mystery was preserved until the very last moment, and they highlighted that this was a deliberate approach chosen by the artist who preferred to deliver the entire package at once rather than in pieces, reminding audiences that in the past she had employed similar surprise tactics, citing the release of Cardigan on the exact day Folklore was published, Antihero on the same day Midnight's arrived, and Fortnight on the release day of the Tortured Poets Department. All examples showing that Swift liked to tie the premiere of a single to the full album drop, and this time the pattern was being followed again. They said that what was different on this occasion was that The Life of a Showgirl had been described as a return to pure pop, crafted with her trusted collaborators Max Martin and Shellback, a production duo with whom she had notched global #1 singles in the past, and observers thought that such a partnership could easily have secured multiple chart-topping songs, especially since it had been some time since Swift commanded worldwide singles dominance, except for the revived success of Cruel Summer. Yet despite the potential, she still chose not to unveil a song early, leaving fans to wonder whether the album might not sound as traditionally pop as many assumed. But reporters underlined that this was not her concern as of late, because she had been focusing more heavily on promoting exclusive physical editions of her albums, continuing the strategy of limited formats and collectible designs. And in the build-up to Showgirl, that same emphasis was visible again. They explained that promotional planks connected to the new era and the ongoing tour had been installed in various parts of the globe, some of them carrying fragments of lyrics, teasing listeners with hints, and Billboard confirmed that the fresh track Father Figure would in fact contain a nod to George Michael's celebrated classic from Faith released in 1987, a possibility that had been speculated about for weeks and was finally verified, making headlines as one of the most intriguing details of the project. They continued by noting that the cinematic component of the rollout had also been arranged with the feature the official release party of a Showgirl scheduled to screen in theaters across more than 100 countries beginning October 3rd, with Spain included among the territories. And from that same weekend onward, the singer was expected to appear on a series of talk shows as part of a concentrated publicity run, including Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers in the United States, with Graham Norton in the United Kingdom also lined up, meaning that although the early days of release would carry the weight of the album itself, the full promotional push would unfold immediately after. They pointed out that by the eve of release, the number of Spotify pre-saves had already surpassed 5.5 million, an extraordinary indicator that mass success was once more secured for Swift, showing how strong anticipation was worldwide. Reporters recounted how industry watchers were struck by the discipline of the campaign, which balanced silence about the sound of the album with loud visible signals in the form of billboards, planks, pop-ups, cinematic events, and scheduled appearances, creating a rhythm of expectation without spoiling any surprises. And this style had become a hallmark of her recent rollouts. Subscribe now to stay tuned for every new update as the story keeps developing. They continued by stressing that observers looked closely at the role of Max Martin and Shellback, two figures who had defined earlier pop eras in Swift's career, in the sense that their return signaled a possible wave of powerful singles that could dominate international charts. Yet fans and critics alike acknowledged that Swift was committed to her strategy of releasing in full without previews, preferring to allow the audience to absorb the body of work in one sweeping moment rather than in fragments. And this was something that made each of her album launches an event rather than a slow build. The reporters emphasized that the confirmation of Father Figure with its reference to George Michael was particularly notable because it showed how she could weave cultural touchstones into her own narratives, and that kind of intertextual play fueled speculation about the lyrical content throughout the rest of the album, but all of it was kept under wraps until release day itself. They noted that the decision to hold the global cinematic screenings also reinforced her tendency to transform album releases into multimedia experiences, pointing back to previous film projects tied to her tours. And now, once again, she was expanding the release into a communal event experienced simultaneously across continents. Observers remarked that by securing venues in more than 100 countries, she had positioned the life of a showgirl not only as a musical milestone, but also as a worldwide cultural happening, and that the alignment with late-night television appearances ensured that conversation would remain continuous for days after the album dropped, giving no pause to the wave of publicity. Reporters added that while many questioned why she would not capitalize on obvious hit singles ahead of time, industry analysts explained in their briefings that Swift's brand power was so strong that she no longer needed traditional singles to generate momentum. Instead, the very act of release was sufficient to mobilize massive audiences, and the Spotify pre-save numbers were cited as proof of this fact. They concluded that the guarantee of success seemed so solid that all eyes would shift quickly from anticipation to analysis once the music was out. But until then, the element of mystery continued to fuel the conversation. Subscribe for more Swift news as the promo week unfolds. They highlighted again that the absence of early singles did not signal weakness, but rather reflected a carefully designed model Swift had now used several times. And they recounted once more how Cardigan, Anti-Hero, and Fortnite had all emerged on the same day as their parent albums, reinforcing the consistency of her release playbook. Though this time the stakes felt even higher because the production team suggested an overt return to pop, something fans and analysts both knew had the capacity to dominate radio and streaming. They underlined that despite all this potential, she was more interested in shaping the fan experience around physical products, rare versions, and controlled events, and that the planks placed around the world displaying lyric fragments were a continuation of the puzzle-like engagement she always fostered with her audience, who then rushed to decode every detail. Billboard's revelation about father figure ended weeks of chatter and confirmed that she had drawn inspiration from George Michael's iconic Faith, cementing another connection between her new work and pop history. Reporters said that what awaited on October 3rd was not just the release of songs, but a multimedia campaign that blended album, film, talk shows, and international hype into one synchronized spectacle, and that with over 5.5 million pre-saves, the momentum was undeniable. They reiterated that the promo schedule would begin in earnest after release, with appearances on Fallon and Myers followed by Graham Norton, ensuring that her presence spanned both American and British media circuits, further broadening the reach. In closing, commentators said that the combination of secrecy, spectacle, nostalgia, and sheer anticipation positioned the life of a showgirl to be another defining moment in Taylor Swift's career, and that audiences everywhere were on standby for the moment when the music itself would finally be revealed to the world. Please subscribe to not miss the next update. They underlined that despite all this potential, she was more interested in shaping the fan experience around physical products, rare versions, and controlled events, and that the planks placed around the world displaying lyric fragments were a continuation of the puzzle-like engagement she always fostered with her audience, who then rushed to decode every detail. Billboard's revelation about father figure ended weeks of chatter and confirmed that she had drawn inspiration from George Michael's iconic Faith, cementing another connection between her new work and pop history. Reporters said that what awaited on October 3rd was not just the release of songs, but a multimedia campaign that blended album, film, talk shows, and international hype into one synchronized spectacle, and that with over 5.5 million pre-saves, the momentum was undeniable. They reiterated that the promo schedule would begin in earnest after release, with appearances on Fallon and Myers followed by Graham Norton, ensuring that her presence spanned both American and British media circuits, further broadening the reach. In closing, commentators said that the combination of secrecy, spectacle, nostalgia, and sheer anticipation positioned the life of a showgirl to be another defining moment in Taylor Swift's career, and that audiences everywhere were on standby for the moment when the music itself would finally be revealed to the world. Please subscribe to not miss the next update.